Goal in life is to waken people up to their potential and what they're capable of doing. If you are somebody that knows there is more for them in life, if you're somebody who, like me, used to sit behind an office desk but had this feeling in my gut that there was more, then this is your sign.
Well, listen, it's a real pleasure for me to be here and sharing Kim's program. Kim has come to America and shared in our program on many occasions, and we're always happy to have her. You know, our company operates in 91 different countries. We're operating all over the world. And as Kim just mentioned, the slide just pointed out, I started in this business in 1961. That's a long time ago. And we have dealt with a lot of people, but I'm going to tell you something, and this is not to flatter her. Kim Calvert is the #1 consultant with our company worldwide. We have a couple of thousand people scattered around the world, and she is #1. So for me, it's a real pleasure to be on her program and share some of the thoughts with you that have literally changed my life as they have hers. Let me start by explaining one of the most important aspects of enjoying success in life is to have a good coach, a good mentor. And if you have that and you are able to follow direction reasonably well, you can shock yourself with the success you're going to enjoy. Now, I say that based on experience. It was 1961 that a man shared this book with me. I've got this book held together with elastics because it's literally fallen apart. I've read this every day now for 60 years, starting 60 years last October. And when I started to study this, I started to live in a totally different world. I started out 60 years ago. I was earning $4,000 a year and I owed $6,000. I had no formal education, 2 months high school, and I had a bad work record. But I was very fortunate because the man that introduced me to Napoleon Hill's work, he was very wise. He said, Bob, what has happened in the past belongs in the past. It doesn't belong here. And I have had one of these little hourglasses on my desk for a long time. The sand in the top of the glass represents the future. The sand in the bottom of the glass is gone. That represents the past. And there's only one thing we can do anything with, and that's what's right here, right now. And his name was Ray Stanford, and he made that very, very clear to me. He said, Bob, let go of the past. Now, he said, if you are prepared to follow direction, I can show you how to get anything you want. Now, when he said that, I have to admit, I thought the guy was crazy. But then he said something else. He said, listen, he said, my way's working, yours is not. Why don't you try mine? Now, I've had a lot of people over the years that they tried to help me. They tried to get me on the right track. But for whatever reason, I kept getting on the wrong track. And when he said that, he really made me stop and think. And then he pointed something out. He said, let the dead bury the dead. Now, he said that's a biblical phrase that's rich with truth. And so I thought, I'm going to give it a try. Well, my whole life started to change. Now, if you're wondering about success, Scott, let's look at this, full screen. I want you to think of this. Success is 5% strategy and it's 95% mindset. Now, I want you to think about that. 5% strategy. A lot of people spend all their time planning, strategizing. Go back, please. 5% strategy, 95% mindset. See, it's the mind that we're focused on. Now, Kim has been working with a lot of you people, and some of you that maybe she's never worked with. But if you're to work with her, I'm going to tell you, she will help you understand the mind. And by understanding the mind, you change your whole world. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of time here. I'm going through this. And then I'm going to teach you one of the greatest lessons you'll ever learn. It's something school doesn't teach us, thanks God. And it's how to make decisions. I'm very fortunate. I started to study this before I had any children. I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and I have never made a decision for them. Never. I found that most parents make decisions for their kids right up until the kids leave home, and then the kids are in bad trouble because they've never learned how to make decisions. The parents were making decisions for them because the parents wanted to make sure they didn't get hurt. And they figured that was the best way to protect them, make all their decisions. But when the kids left home, they didn't know how to make decisions. School does not teach us how to make decisions. And you're going to find here in this short presentation, which may take better part of an hour, you're going to see where decision is just a huge part of your life. Now think for a moment. We're talking here about the mind and about mindset. It's very, very important. So what I'm going to show you is all about the mind. And it's about your marvelous mind. So stay with me here and think. What do you know about the mind? Most people know very little about the mind. Well, I'm going to share something with you that I learned a number of years ago. And if you just bring this right up. I want you to look at the mind and look at paradigms. But since I'm just talking to you, we're not talking to a whole crowd, I'm talking to you as an individual. I want you to focus on your mind and your paradigm. Now, you may not know what a paradigm is. Most people don't. It's probably one of the most important subjects that you could possibly learn because paradigms literally control our life. Paradigms control the money we earn. It controls our relationships. It controls our business. It controls almost everything in our life. And most people don't even understand what it is. Now, there was a doctor back in 1934, Dr. Thurman Fleet. He was very involved in the healing arts and very involved in holistic health. And he stated the mind is an activity, it's not a thing. No one has ever seen the mind. In order to gain clarity and eliminate confusion, I'm going to create an image that you can work with. Now, I want you to think, no one has ever seen the mind. The mind is not your brain. The brain is part of your body, and mind is an activity. Body is the manifestation of that activity. So this good doctor said, I'm going to create a picture of the mind. And this is what he did. Now, the first time I saw that, I laughed. I thought it would look like something out of a comic book. But I'm going to tell you, it's probably one of the most important lessons I have ever learned. And I'm going to suggest it could be one of the most important you'll ever learn. That large circle represents the mind, the conscious and the subconscious. And the small circle represents the body. Now, without question, after 60 years, this still stands as the most valuable idea I've ever learned. Now, I want you to stop and think of where you are in your life right now. What are you earning? How much money do you earn? What kind of freedom do you enjoy? What kind of relationships do you enjoy? Do you get what you want or do you compromise? How are you really living? Do you know that a very, very small select group of people are living the way they want to live? Most people do not live the way they want. And it's not that they don't know how, they do know how. Now look at this for a moment. We already have the knowledge and the power to accomplish most anything that we want. You do. You may say, oh, I don't, but I'm going to show you in a minute, and I think you'll realize you do. However, we've never developed a clear understanding of how paradigms are formed or how they control our habitual behavior. This is very important. Now, that may be a foreign idea to you, but hopefully I'll change that in a few moments. Therefore, we frequently don't do what we already know how to do. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. Doing what we need to do is not the big problem, or knowing. Doing it is a big problem. Almost everyone knows how to do a better job than they're doing. It's awareness that they're lacking. It's awareness of what goes on in the mind, what is behind the results. You see, people don't earn 100 a year because they want 100 a year. They're earning 100 a year because they're not aware of how to earn 100 a month. And once they learn 100 a month, they're not earning 100 a month because they want 100 a month. They're earning 100 a month because they don't know how to earn 100 a week. You see, people are forever compromising. They're settling for the results they get because they don't really clearly understand that they can get any results they want. So here we've got superior knowledge, inferior results. That causes confusion and frustration. Now let's put the diagram of the mind back up here again. And here you have an individual with an enormous amount of knowledge. They could have gone right through our educational system. They've got degrees coming off the end of their business card, yet they're struggling financially. How does that happen? You could find a young couple where both of them are earning, above average income, but they're always broke. They never take the vacations they want. They don't live in the house they want. They don't even drive the car they want. You'll find most couples have two cars, but one is inferior. One gets the good car and the other one gets the old car. Why wouldn't they both have new cars? See, well, we really don't think that through. Well, look at all the knowledge they've got there does not translate into results. So you'll find people that are absolutely brilliant, but their results would indicate they're not. I want you to think about, don't just hear me talking, think. You know people who are absolutely brilliant, and yet they're broke. You know, you've got members of your family. When it comes to the smarts, they've got it. They really are pretty sharp, but they're broke. They never take the vacation they want to take. They don't live the way they want to live. Why? Well, here's why. It's the paradigm that controls the result. It's not all that knowledge. It's the paradigm. And most people grow up, they have no knowledge of the paradigm. Now, if you're going to change your results, it's absolutely essential that you change the paradigm. Paradigm's got to change. And I'm going to tell you something else. Something else that has to change. It's your concept of self. You're going to get a new self-image. You've got to start looking at yourself differently. Thanks, Scott. Now listen. When Ray Stanford gave me this book, I had a very poor opinion of me. Now granted, that was 60 years ago. My opinion of me has changed dramatically. I sat down in a den in a house on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois, many years ago. I took a pen in my hand and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. My company today operates in 91 different countries. I met Kim Calvert, 3, 4, 5 years ago. She had nothing. As a matter of fact, Kim sold her car to get to the program I was teaching. Today, she's a millionaire. She's a young lady that is very bright. You have an opportunity to study with her over the next year. And I'm going to tell you something. You make a decision to study with her for the next year. A year from today, you will be a totally different human being. Your income will have changed dramatically. Your relationships will have changed dramatically. Everything in your life will change, just as mine did and as hers did. But before we get to that point of making a decision to do something like that, stay with me here for a moment. You already know how to do better than you're doing. That's not the problem. It's your concept of self. It's how you see you. So let's take a look at this. There's our little drawing. Now we'll say the conscious, the subconscious, and the body. Now the conscious mind is your thinking mind. Do you know that thinking is the highest function we're capable of? All the great leaders all down through history, all of them, without exception, they've all been in complete unanimous agreement that you and I become what we think about. Thinking is the highest function that we're capable of. The conscious mind is also the educated mind, as it did in that little drawing I showed you a few minutes ago. That's where all the books were piled. This is where our intellect is resident. Now, the subconscious mind operates quite differently, and it's very important we understand that. You see, the conscious mind has the ability to choose. It has the ability to accept or reject, and it has the ability to originate. Subconscious doesn't have that ability. Now, think of the difference for a moment. Look at all the things on the right-hand side of the screen the conscious mind is capable of doing. Subconscious can only accept. It must accept, as a matter of fact. It has absolutely no ability to reject. And I'm going to tell you something else. It cannot differentiate between what you imagine and what's real. Your subconscious mind is in every molecule of your being. Your subconscious mind literally controls your life to an enormous degree. It has a program inside of it. And that program has been written by somebody else, but it's your life it's controlling. Now, how did that happen? Well, let's close this for a moment and take a look at this information. And here it is here. There's you today. You've got all this information coming at you. It's coming at you from social media, from other people, from Netflix, from newscasts, and it's flowing into your consciousness. And you have the ability to think most of this information is negative, and you could tell that information, get out of here. Do you know what our problem is? We don't do that. In fact, we don't think, and we leave our mind wide open, and it's going right into our subconscious mind. Now, remember I said that we just let the information in there? We pointed out the subconscious mind operates by a paradigm. Thank you, Scott. The paradigm controls everything inside. Now, how did that paradigm get there? And that's what I want to share with you. Because when you understand this, you're going to understand the absolute essential aspect of being properly coached and trained. Properly coached and being properly trained, you can turn your whole life around in probably a little under a year. Without it, you could go through your whole life and never get it turned around. So let's close the window here for a moment and take a look where this paradigm started. Here you are as an infant. Remember we said about the subconscious mind had no ability to reject? Well, that's how you arrived on the screen. When you were a baby, when you arrived in a home, you learned the language that was spoken in that home. Now, if there were 3 or 4 languages spoken in that home, you'd learn all 3 or 4 of them. You didn't have any difficulty learning. I had a particular associate over in Kuala Lumpur. I worked over there for a number of years, and they had a little boy at 4 years old. The boy could speak 4 languages. I thought nothing of it. They thought nothing of it because everybody there spoke 4 languages. The little boy learned 4 languages. Some people have a difficult time learning 1 language. Your subconscious mind is wide open, and whatever's going on around by the people around you, it's being dumped right into the baby's subconscious mind. So the food the baby likes, the way the baby acts, it's all being programmed at a very early age. That's how the paradigms form. See, the paradigm is nothing but a multitude of ideas that have gone into your subconscious mind. And through repetition, it's a program that's being written. Okay? Now, the people that were writing the code for this program that we call a paradigm had absolutely no idea of what the hell they were doing. The people that raised us knew very little, if anything, about the mind. And all kinds of information was dumped in there. And through repetition, that information formed a program. And that program controls our behavior. It controls everything we do. Think. Don't just take my word for it. I've studied this for many years. I have worked all over the world. Literally all over the world. And you know something? It's the same in Shanghai as it is in Buenos Aires, as it is in New York City. I have never gone anywhere where this isn't the same. People are programmed exactly the same way. See, you're actually programmed genetically prior to being born. When you see that little diagram on the screen, that illustrates the mind of a baby. And the baby's mind is wide open. It's wide open. and you can put anything in that little mind you want. The baby has no ability to reject it. Thanks, Scott. It has absolutely no ability to reject. The information just dumps in. Okay? Now, this is rather wild when you think about it. You know people who are brilliant, and yet they're not winning. You know other people who don't seem very bright at all, and they're earning millions of dollars. They're living in beautiful homes, driving magnificent cars. They live rich, rewarding lives. Yet they've never been inside of a school. How does this happen? It happens because of the programming. When the programming is right, the person wins. If the programming is wrong, I don't care how much knowledge they've got, the person's going to lose. Now that paradigm literally controls our life. So here we are here, years later, same paradigm controlling us. Now this is wild when you think about it, but it's the way we live. Now watch. There's the drawing of the mind. So just pay particular attention to this. There's the body and the mind. We take and divide the mind into two parts, the conscious and the subconscious. Now you have hooked up to your conscious mind your senses. You can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And they're hooked up like antennae to the conscious mind. Picks up information from the outside world, feeds it into the conscious mind. Now get this. The conscious mind is also what we call the intellectual mind. It's the intellectual mind, and you have intellectual factors. What are they? Well, the intellectual factors control your emotional state. They're necessary to change your paradigm. And here they are. You have perception, the will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. These are enormous faculties that we've got, and most people go through life and know nothing about them. Now that I've blocked them out, could you even repeat what they were? You could probably tell me a couple of them, but could you tell me all of them? Let's take a quick look at them again. Perception, the will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. Do you know that those intellectual factors are what separate you and me from all of the rest of the animal kingdom out there? They separate us from all the rest. See, all the other little creatures blend into their environment. They're completely at home. You and I don't blend in. Do you know that we're the only creature on the planet whose environment is totally disrupted? We're totally disoriented in our environment. And that is because we've been given these faculties, and they enable us to develop our own environment. But most people never learn what they are. Now, the beautiful truth is they're all here in our conscious mind. They're all in our conscious mind, and they give us the ability to change our paradigm. So do you see, through the proper use of these higher faculties, we can change the paradigm. We can tell that paradigm to get out of town, and we can go ahead and we can create a new paradigm. And that is how Kim Calvert took control of her life. But 50-some years before that, that's how Bob Proctor took control of his life. And over the next year, if you're wise, you can let this control your life over the next year. It's a beautiful thing to know, and most people don't understand. Now let's take a look at what a paradigm is. A paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. Now think of that. A paradigm is a program. It's a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior, and almost all of our behavior is habitual. Now I want you to think of this for a moment. Why do you look so much like relatives? That is because of genetic conditioning. You see, your conditioning dates back a few generations. We're not quite sure how many. But it's not an accident that you look like your relatives. You know, when I was a very young guy, I had red hair. Now, I have a brother and sister. Neither one of them. Now, my mother and father, neither one of them had red hair. But my mother's father and all his brothers had red hair. See, sometimes it'll skip one generation, come out in another one. Now, what am I getting at here? I'm getting at genetic conditioning. There's a little particle of energy from mom, a little particle of energy from dad. They came together. All of their DNA was mixed together, and that created your DNA. And that is called the genetic conditioning. It's very powerful. Then, after birth, there's the environmental conditioning. Do a little research. Do you know almost all welfare recipients are third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients? We're really a product of our environment to an enormous degree. Do we have to be? No. No, we can take control. And that's what I want to suggest you do. Now, I'm going to show you all the areas that your paradigm controls. It's enormous when you think about it. Your paradigm controls your perception. Your perception is how you look at life. Thanks, Scott. It's how you control how you look at your life. Your paradigm, the conditioning in your subconscious mind, controls how you utilize your time. Think, do you know that almost everybody gets the same amount of time? We get all there is. So it's what we do with our time that really makes the difference. Now think of this. Our paradigm controls our creativity. Thanks, Scott. When I was just a kid, I was leaving public school, and my school teacher, Miss Strawn, she was a nice lady. She said, Bob, where are you going? I said, I'm going over to Melbourne Collegiate. Oh, Bob, don't go there. She said, you'll never do well in business, Bob. Go to Danforth Tech and get a trade. Well, you know, I was only there a month, and I shoved my thumb right into a bandsaw. I cut the end of my thumb off. They sewed it back on. And you know that thumb still gets cold. It still hurts when it gets cold. I'm useless when it comes to trade, but I'm extremely creative. In fact, I'm a very creative department, part of our company. Everyone's creative. It's not that one person's more creative than another. It's that one person learns to utilize their creativity to a greater degree than another. Our paradigm controls how effective we are. I watched how effective Kim Kelbert's come over the last year. It's mind-boggling how that woman has changed her life, but changed the lives of thousands of other people, just as I have and as you can. The more effective you become, the more productive you are. And here's one: never, ever let logic control you. But paradigms does let logic control us. And last but not least, our ability to earn money is controlled by our paradigm. Now look, it's almost as if there's a box around all these. And every time we go to change any one of these areas, we hit the wall and bounce back. The second you make up your mind, and you can do it while you're on the call here, that you're going to change your paradigm, that wall comes down. Okay? The second you make up your mind, the wall comes down. That doesn't mean you've changed anything, but when you go to change, you're not getting stopped by the wall. Now think of this. I want you to just imagine how your entire life will change as you begin improving any or all of these areas of our life. The change will be huge. Absolutely huge. And here's the beautiful proof. The beautiful truth is the change will be permanent. That is the beautiful part of this. And it's the part most people don't understand. If you just work at changing how you utilize your time, you will multiply your income. Just change how you utilize your time, and you'll multiply your income. You see, I changed how I utilize my time. I began getting up early, and I started to study. I'm here in my studio at my desk. See these papers? These are the ones I've been studying now for about 3 months. Same papers, because I really want to understand them. Okay? This is a little book I've been studying, Power of Awareness. It's our awareness that we want to change. I have never stopped studying Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And I have been mentored for the last 60 years. Okay? You want to change your ability to earn money? We'll show you how to do that. Here's the bad, sad truth. Most people are extras in their own movie. They settle for where they are, and they look at somebody else as being the star. They think, well, Kim can, but I can't. If Kim can, you can. Whenever you see someone else do something, that's positive proof you can do it. Now think. Really think. Why do people remain extras in their own movie? Because they never take control of their life. Who's the director of their life? They don't really know. I want to suggest you become the director. What do you really want? What do you really want? If you can tell us what you want, we can show you how to get it. It's a beautiful part. We're suggesting you sit and you set a goal. Take your pen and write down exactly what you want. I've been carrying my goal on a card in my pocket, every goal I've ever set for the last 60 years. I have it written on a card that I carry in my pocket. I want to recommend you do exactly the same thing. You want to control the flow of energy. You want to let it flow freely to and through you, improving everything with which it connects. Now, let these lines represent levels of vibration. What I'm going to show you here has the power to change everything in your life if you utilize it. Every frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. Frequencies are levels of vibration. Everything in this universe is made of exactly the same form of substance, and everything vibrates. Nothing rests. Vibration is the law of the universe. So stay here, Scott. Now look at. I want you to understand that every one of these frequencies hooked up to the one above and the one below. Now let this represent your telephone. Let this represent my telephone. If I have your number, I can be connected to your phone. Go back. Now think. If I have your number, I can connect to your phone. Thanks, God. Now, let's think of this. I don't care where you are in the world. If I've got your number, I'm connected. As a matter of fact, we are connected right now. I don't know where you are. I'm in Toronto, in Canada. Where are you? Because we're connected. Not only are we connected, everybody else on this call is connected. There's a few hundred people here, and we're all connected because we're all on the same frequency. It's the frequency you're on that makes the difference. The frequency you're on dictates how much of this stuff you're going to earn. Now think. This is called money. Actually, it's just some paper with ink on it. It represents money. Money is nothing but an idea. Well, the frequency you're on is going to dictate how much of that you'll have. Now, we seem to understand this with respect to utilizing our telephone. But when it comes to life, we seem to get lost. Now, the lesson I'm going to teach you here is the lesson that literally changed my life. It changed Kim Calvert's life, and it'll change your life. Okay? Now, you're looking here at levels of vibration. I'm just going to ask you, Scott, to keep this the way it is. Okay? Let each one of these lines represent a level of vibration. Each level of vibration is referred to as a frequency. We think on a frequency. Let these little puffy clouds represent your thoughts, yours. It's your thoughts that dictate your results. It's the kind of thought you think that determines the kind of income you're going to earn, kind of relationships you develop. Thanks, God. Now think of this. The results you're getting are never going to satisfy you. You are a spiritual being, and spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. You see it in everything of life. You see it in all of nature. Nature's forever expanding, moving into a greater state. And that's the way we should be. When we've got a result, we want a better results. Now, when I was a little boy, my grandmother pretty well raised me. Grandma kept saying, Bob, you should be satisfied. Grandma was a beautiful lady, but she was wrong. You should never be satisfied. You should be happy with what you've got, but never satisfied with what you've got. Okay, now thanks, God. I want you to think of where you are. Now I want you to think of what you want. I want you to say, that's where I want to go. That's the goal. Now here's where most people go wrong. They say, I'm going to do that as soon as I get the money. I'm going to do that as soon as the kids are out of school. I'm going to do that as soon as I get a promotion. I'm going to do that as soon as. And pretty soon, the decision dies. And shortly afterwards, so does the dream. Why? Well, the real problem lies down here. A person's thinking on this frequency. The good that they desire is way up there on a higher frequency. We could compare that, if you look at the results where we are, as an AM radio frequency, and you want to listen to FM music, you're never going to get it. If you want to hear the FM music, you got to tune in on that frequency. Now here's the great problem in life. Most people are living on that lower frequency, wishing they had what's on the higher frequency. Anybody can have it. It is not contingent upon the formal education you got. It has nothing to do with the side of the tracks you were born on. It has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with almost everything we think it has to do with. You've got to make a decision that you're going to go there. You see, you've got to be thinking on that frequency. And the only way to do that is you've got to make a committed decision. When you make a committed decision, it's got nothing to do with where you are. When Kim Calvert made a decision she was going to change her life, she was going to study and understand this program, it had nothing to do with her present position because she did not have the money to afford it. But she said, I will find the money. You see, you will always find whatever is necessary to do whatever it is you want to do. If you compromise and you settle for what you've got, you're sunk. When you say, this is a committed decision, at that moment, you've got to start to think and act like the person you want to become. I'll come back. The second you make the committed decision, you flip. You stop thinking on that lower frequency. You start to think and act like the person you want to become. And you start thinking on a higher frequency. And you say, well, that looks pretty easy. It does. But it isn't that easy. Your paradigm's trying to stop you. You see, the only prerequisite for getting what we want is, do you want it? That's the only prerequisite for making a decision. Now listen to me for a minute. I want you to think of something you really want. The amount of money you got nothing to do with it. Your gender, where you were born, your formal education, none of those things have anything to do with it. It's, do you want it? When you want it bad enough, you're going to get it. See, it's the want that makes the difference. When Ray Stanford gave me this book, he said, if you will make this a part of your thinking, a part of your way of life, he said, everything in your life will change. And he said, all you have to do is want to. I didn't understand that. I thought I had to have money, I had to have better formal education, I had to have all these other things. None of that was true. I tell a story in Born Rich about a couple that were in a seminar that I was conducting, and they asked if I would talk to them after, and I said, sure. So anyway, I was talking to them, and I said, what do you really want? Well, they wanted to buy their own house, and I said, go buy one. They said, we can't buy a house. And I said, why not? They said, we haven't got any money. And I said, you don't need any money. They said, what do you mean we don't need any money? I said, you haven't made a decision to buy the house. What the hell do you need the money for? Now, that may sound like a cute little line, but it was true. I said, the second you make the decision to buy the house, you will always find the money. I don't care if it's you're walking down the street and you look in the store window and you see a beautiful dress and you think, God, I'd love to have that dress. Or you see a suit of clothes and say, man, I'd love to have that suit. Or you see a car and think, I'd really like to have that car. When you really want it, you always find the money for it. If you really want to go somewhere, you will always find a way to get there. Want is the only prerequisite. See, when you flip onto that higher frequency, everything that you need is going to flow into your consciousness of how to get there. But if you're back down here on this lower frequency, you're never going to figure out how to get there, because the way to get there is not on that frequency. That'd be like, here, look at, that'd be like you taking your phone and hitting a number, any number, and try and get me. You're not going to get me on the phone unless my number's in your phone. And even after my number's on your phone, you got to get my frequency on here before you hit send. You see, if you're down here, you're never going to get what you want. You got to get up on that higher frequency. Now, the only prerequisite to get up there is, do you want it? You may think this is a little crazy, and it is a little crazy relative to the way most people think. But I don't believe you want to think like most people think. Do you know that only 5% of the population are living the way they really want to live? It's not that the rest of them are not good people. They're very good people. They have never learned the rules of how to live the good life. School doesn't teach us. If you want to learn how, our company teaches this information. And Kim Calvert happens to be one of the very best in our company. Do you know that young lady, in a very short period of time, has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people? Not just in Northern Ireland, where she comes from, all over the world. Everywhere she goes, people change. She's extremely effective. If you have something that you really want, understand that want is the only prerequisite. Kim will show you how to get onto the frequency that you have to be on and how to stay on that frequency. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. If you're going to make a decision, you've got to make it fast. Look at this for a moment. All successful people make decisions very, very fast. When John Kennedy asked Dr. Wernher von Braun what it would take to build a rocket that would carry a person to the moon and bring it back safely to Earth, he answered him in less than 10 seconds. He said, the will to do it. Now, if you remember those higher faculties we've got, one of them was the will. The will is what gives us the ability to hold one idea on the screen of our mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. Very big and very misunderstood. The will to do it. That's all you need to get what you want. It's such a beautiful concept, and yet it's so misunderstood. If you take more than 10 seconds to decide of whether you want to be properly coached for the next year or not, if you take over 10 seconds, it's probably your paradigm that's answering. It's that condition in your subconscious mind that's controlling your results right up till now. You say, I can't afford it. Listen, that's not the reason you're not doing it. If you really want it, you'll find the money. You'll say, I don't have the time. If you really want it, you'll find the time. And if you're going to learn how to change your life, don't fool around with somebody that really doesn't know what they're doing. Kim Calvert really knows what she's doing. I am so proud to be related and to work with that woman. I've been in this business all my adult life. I know all the top people in this industry all over the world. I've been here longer than most of them. I'm going to be 87 on my next birthday. I got more energy than most people that are 37. And I'll tell you what I have developed. I've developed some wisdom. I've developed the ability to spot talent the second I see it. Kim Calvert is one of the best you'll ever find at helping you get what you want. And here's all you have to do. You have to make a decision, and you've got to stop letting the paradigm control you. And she's going to ask you to do a couple of things. Realize who you are. You're a massive energy that functions on a very high frequency. and she's going to show you how to live the way you really want to live. Okay? It's a beautiful thing to know. Thanks, Scott. Okay? Where are you going to be 1 year from now? If you know, I want to suggest you write it on a card. Write it in the present tense. Make up your mind that you're going to have Kim guide you. She can show you how to multiply your income. She can show you how to multiply your effectiveness. She can show you how to build your company. And the only prerequisite for doing it is to want to. The money, the time, everything, that'll all come. When you make a decision, you're always going to find what you need to get there. Now, as I've said, I couldn't be any more proud of working with the person I am working with Kim. I've studied this all my adult life. I've earned millions of dollars. I work with people all over the world, and I work with some of the largest companies in the world. The information we've got, I believe, is the best information. It's the best transformational information that you're going to find anywhere in the world. And it'll help you change your life. It'll help you change your life like night and day. I want to thank you for coming on this call. And I want you to remember, as long as you live, whatever it is you want, that's all you have to do is want to. And when you want to, you'll always find a way to do it. The Wright brothers wanted to introduce us to a new kingdom. They found a way of getting the plane off the ground. Ed Hillary wanted to get to the top of the mountain. He was the first man to stand on the top of Mount Everest. You might be the first person in your family to really enjoy tremendous success. Go for it and show the others how to do it. Kim will help you do that. Out of all our consultants worldwide, she is number one. So you get an opportunity to work with the very best for an entire year. A year from now, you're going to need a telescope to look back and see where you were when you started this. I want to thank you very much for your attention. And I want you to know that, you can't find better information than this anywhere. It is the very best information you'll find. And get locked into it. Study.